Hey fam, what's up? Happy Wednesday. I hope you guys are all having a really good week. I'm back again, as I do most Wednesdays, doing a feedback on somebody's portfolio that they submitted or their reel. Today's reel that I'm going to be giving feedback on belongs to Bjorn Thomas Darmstadt, who is a contender on the rookie side. So like I always do, I'm going to just go through the reel so that you can see it the way it should be seen. And then we're going to go back and go through it like bit by bit, just a little bit slower so we can look at each shot and just dissect it a little bit, and I can give you some feedback on that. So let's go down to business. And let me just get the reel up for you. Okay, I hope you guys can see that. I'm just going to play it through once. Very nice. That's quite a cool soundtrack that it's got there. It's got quite a lot of impact, nice beats. And you've got your clips lining up, and the beats of your animation work really well with the beats of the music there. So that's a good music choice there. Well done. So let's go back to the beginning. Oops, I did something. Let's go back to the beginning and go through it a little slower. Let me just turn off the sound. Okay. So there's not much really that I can say about these. I mean, they're really great. You can see straight away it's the kind of, idle loop or whatever that you would have for a game position. So it's great that that's what you're interested in, and you can see straight away that that is what you're going for, like a position in a game studio. Okay, so this shot is very cool as well. I really like the camera moves that you've got going there. It's really exciting. You've got her with a prop, her sword. Her arms are great with all the hectic movements that you've got going on there. I love it when she jumps up and you've got that sword swing underneath her. And that sort of smear frame that you've got going on with the sword is also very cool. Gives a really great effect to all that action and movement. The first thing that stood out to me about this that I would give, some feedback on is that her legs and her ankles and her knees just seem really stiff, especially, when compared to that really nice fluidity that you have going on with her arms and the sword movement. Her knees, there's just not as much bending as you would expect in there, especially for these sort of movements. And, ankles as well. I mean, obviously she's wearing boots, which would be a little tighter on her ankles, but there could be just a little more flexibility there in her ankles. So as she takes this first step, you can see that she's actually quite bow-legged there. I mean, her knees are, you can't see her knees there, but there, for instance, I mean, you can see from that pose there. Oh my gosh, I've got such a lag on my computer. Awkward sort of bow-legged pose that she's got going on over there. And it kind of, she sticks in that pose for quite a long time until her knee comes around, but already here her body's kind of moving forward, so her knee should be pointing forward sooner here. This knee over here needs to come and sort of pivot around to face the direction that she's moving in. Let me just put some markers here so it'll just stay there. So that's a bit of an awkward looking crouch that she has right in the beginning there. And her knees are just rotated outwards a bit too much. So I would just bring that knee to rotate inwards to face the way she's pointing. And then as she takes that first step, there, her leg should be straight. And you can actually see from the angle of the leg that it's not. But she would straighten that leg first as she takes that first step. Oh my gosh. As she takes that first step, and then she would bend her knees. So straight legs and then bend her knees as she goes down and shifts her weight onto that bent knee and then lifts the weight on the other leg to sort of pivot around like that as she goes around and around. And you can actually see as the camera pulls out here, you can see, I don't know what's wrong with my pen here, but it's creating such havoc with this timeline. You can see over here that her foot is not actually touching the ground as she pivots around there. It never was touching the ground, it looks like. And it is actually pretty obvious when you watch it. You can kind of see that it's floating there. And I would just have a lot more sort of bend to her knees as she transfers her weight from one leg to the other, because none of that's really happening here. She's staying on a very stiff level plane as she pivots around. And while her knees would be bent the whole time, she's still transferring weight from one leg to the other, and there would be that slight adjustment as she transfers her weight. So I would just watch that as she's going around here. You do sort of notice that her hips are staying on the exact same sort of level as she does that pivot around and around. It looks quite mechanical. And her knees are also, I mean, your knees act sort of like as shock absorbers as your body goes up and down, and they're not really reacting in that way here. Now this jump here, it's a very cool jump, but I feel like she kind of just, over here, she just sort of springs into the air. She's got a little bit of anticipation, and she kind of goes down a little on her knee and then goes up. But I feel like there could be just a little bit more anticipation there, because she does sort of just shoot up into the air straight away. She should go a little lower first. And then as this leg comes up, this leg, so she pushes off that leg and it sort of flings up, that could come up in a bit more of like a more powerful arc. Have a little bit more impact there. Like I said before, I really like that whole sword swipe, the way her leg comes down just after. That's very cool. And then as she lands again, I'm missing that impact, that shock absorption that her knees would provide as she lands. She sort of just lands and that's where she locks, you know. There's none of that bounce down as her knees take that weight and then readjust into her position. So I would just go and, you know, add a little bit more of that. Just keep in mind that your knees are kind of like shock absorbers for all these big jumps and stuff. So that's all really cool. Again, her knees just feel a little stiff here. And her ankles as well. I think again, like in this sort of pose here, the knee should already be coming forward, not still so splayed out, because it should sort of be reacting to her hips. So it would be like her upper body starts to turn, then her hips follow, and then her knees. And I think her knees are just lagging a little bit behind in these movements. So she ends up being quite bow-legged and looking a little awkward a lot of the time. that step over there again is just a little awkward. I mean, you can see quite clearly here that this knee should definitely already be pointing sort of that way. It's a bit difficult to draw it from this angle, but that knee should definitely be rotating. I mean, her hips are already facing forward like that, so that knee needs to come around. You can see it looks a little broken there as it's coming around like that. You can actually see there's a bit of a lag there, I think, as the joint is sort of adjusting to that rotation. There's a bit of a skip lag. Let me play that just and erase those drawings that I did there, just so you can see a little more clearly. So if you just watch that leg as it comes around, you can see there's a little bit of a lag frame right there. As it's coming forward, it sort of sticks. And that's because the joint, it's not rotating in a smooth curve over there because it's kind of in a bit of an awkward position. It's not following on naturally there. So I would just fix that up a little bit there as well. And then as she comes around on this leg, just if you watch that leg as she comes around, there's again a little bit of a wobble there, a little readjustment. So this knee is pointing a little bit too much forward. If you see, I mean, her hips are not pointing so much that way. They're pointing a little more that way. So her knee should be slightly more rotated in that way. And then you can see, it is a bit of an awkward angle. So as it comes around, it sort of clicks or jerks a little there as it rotates. And she could also just go down a little more on that knee to make it a bit more of a smoother transition. Nice, powerful finish though. I really like that. All in all, it's a really great sequence and it's a fantastic job. Very well done. It's just those few little things that will just help with, the flow of the action. Got a really cute little fish here. He's got a lot of character and I really like his little sort of like wave movement that can be difficult to do. So that's a really good one. Very cute fish you've got there. This tiger's great. The timing is great. The weight is great as he jumps. A lot of people struggle with run cycles and this looks really good. It's very good. And his tail is also really great. So again, you've got really good camera moves over here. Very dynamic, interesting. They work well with the scene. The thing that stands out for me here the most is his tail. It just doesn't seem cohesive with his actions. It's kind of going very frantically, and it looks more like the tail belonging to, like a crocodile. I guess he's a crocodile dude. So it looks more like a tail belonging to a nervous crocodile guy than like this experienced fighter, which he obviously is because he knows what he's doing here. He's very sure of himself. He's got great moves. And his tail is like, dude, what's happening? And he's like, I know exactly what's happening. So the tail just looks really frantic and nervous, if you get what I'm saying. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's flicking around really chaotically. It's not moving with the same purpose and sureness that he's moving in. It's kind of like he doesn't know what to do with his tail. Like maybe the tail has just been stuck onto his body and he's still figuring out how to use it. But it's just flicking around really aimlessly, especially the tip, at the end there, it's sort of like flicking around quite a lot. I would take out a lot of the movement and have it more following through what's happening with his body, like reflecting the show movements that he's making rather than just sort of flicking around. Sort of grabs it there, I think. So if he is grabbing it there, then, it would come up and he could grab it and then it would sort of come through like that, rather than, it's like its own entity at the moment. It doesn't have like overlapping action or follow through with the rest of his body. It's kind of its own thing. The rest of the moves are really great though. There's just a little hop near the end there, that foot swap over there. That's a little distracting and that does break the flow of the sequence a little bit. I would rather have him pivot on his heel to adjust that foot position rather than that little hop up. So just to make it a little more smoother and not have that jump. But on the whole, it's a really great shot again. Little Rubik's Cube for Microsoft. This is cute. The chocolate, it's a little weird how it's sort of like at that angle because it would just fall over if it was. I know you're trying to make it look like he's hopping, like he's an animate object, but weight-wise, that's a little off. I would have him standing straight up. And then as he lands there, that's a bit too much rebound. I would definitely turn that down a little bit, not to rebound up so high. Oh, and there's also the bird. The bird's cute. His wings are a little stiff and his legs are a little bit chaotic as well, especially that kick out. It's very sudden. There's no anticipation there. So when he kicks out, it comes as a bit of a surprise. It's almost like there's a glitch in the rig or something because it just sort of pops out there. But otherwise, it's still very cute. This is very good. Quadrupeds are notoriously hard to animate, and it's a very good run. So well done there. That's very good. This is interesting because it actually was like a surprise to see this flat vector 2D shot in this majority 3D showreel. The animation is pretty good. The design leaves a bit to be desired. Yeah, the movement itself, is pretty good. Over here, I would just, while he's jumping up and down like a loon, I would have, the people around him sort of reacting. There's the one sort of eye adjustment and bob as they look at each other, but then there should be like a bit of an eye flick or something. As he's jumping around, there's a long time where they're just doing absolutely nothing. So they could have a little eye dot between each other or something like that there. This is good. That's very good. No, that's a nice shot. That's a good one to end off on. A nice strong shot. Movement's really good. Weight's really good. Timing's good. If anything, I would just pay maybe a little more attention to the hands because they're a little stiff as they go up like that, and the arms as well. Like as he throws them up, they could just go back a little and then shoot forward as he comes down, like with his weight. So just a little more follow through on the arms and wrists maybe, but it's still really good. So yeah, that's a great reel. That's a great way to begin it and end it. I mean, it's always a good idea to start with your strongest and end with your strongest. So people start out impressed and they end off impressed. I would give some advice that maybe you don't include the 2D shots. Because the majority of your reel is 3D. You've just got these two lonely 2D shots in, and it's not like they're primo 2D animation shots, So they kind of bring down the level of the reel on the whole. It's always a good idea with show reels, less is more. So it's better to show a lot of, your best stuff. And if you don't have a lot of good stuff, that's okay. It's actually better to not have as much, so not as long of a reel, because your reel is it's like 55 seconds or something. And 1 minute's a good time for a reel, but it's fine if it's 10 seconds, less than that, if you've got a lot of strong shots in it, which you do, all your 3D stuff is more than enough to have a strong reel with. And if you want to be a game animator and that's what you're going for, then leave out the 2D stuff. I know I get, like, especially when you're new, you want to show what you can do and like how many different things you can do. But if your goal is to become a game character animator, then that's what you should have in your reel, because you're not really going for these sort of 2D or motion graphic things, right? And on the whole, your 3D work is really strong. So keep your entire reel strong and take out those 2D shots. Because, you know, people in life, people like to fixate on the negatives or the less good things. So they'll remember that and it will bring down the tone of the reel just a little bit. So yeah, basically what I'm saying is your 3D stuff is strong enough. You don't need to add the 2D stuff in. What you could do, if you want to still showcase that you have done that sort of work, if you do want to like take a job like that, then you could have them on a YouTube channel or on your Vimeo and just link to those. You know, if you're sending an email to an employer who wants to see examples of work like that, then you could just link to them rather than having them in your reel, so that you have a nice, strong character animator reel to send to game companies that doesn't have this stuff in. And then if on the side you're doing other jobs where you want to show that you can do that kind of stuff, then you can just link them to those other things that are not on your reel. But your reel should really be your strongest work. So that's just my suggestion. Just take out those 2D shots of your reel. Otherwise, yes, it's a very good reel. You should be proud of yourself. I hope that my feedback helped. I hope it helped anyone else watching if you see, you know, sort of the same sort of mistakes you might make in your work. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll probably see you all next week again with the next person. Hope you have a great week. Oh, and if you want to see my YouTube channel, I do advice on the animation industry, animation tips, you know, some tutorials, just stuff about how to get into the industry, advice about show reels, you know, common mistakes animators make, that sort of thing. Then I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Robin O. And maybe I'll see some of you guys there. Have a good week. Thanks for watching. Bye.